and refuses to play by the rules. It only took 36 seconds for one of the most beloved princes in the world to destroy his own reputation on live TV. This is the story of how Prince Harry went from charming guest to entitled antagonist in the blink of an eye, leaving Kelly Ripa with no choice but to do something no host ever wants to do. The morning started like any other on the set of Live with Kelly and Ryan. The lights were bright. The audience was buzzing with excitement, and Kelly Ripa sat in her chair with that signature smile that has made her one of America's most trusted talk show hosts. She had interviewed hundreds of celebrities over the years. She knew how to handle anyone, or so she thought. When Prince Harry walked onto the stage, the crowd erupted. But people were on their feet, screaming, clapping, taking photos with their phones. Harry waved and smiled, soaking in the attention like he had done 1,000 times before. He sat down across from Kelly, and she greeted him warmly. "Welcome to the show, Prince Harry. We are so thrilled to have you here," Kelly said, her voice genuine and welcoming. Harry nodded, barely making eye contact. "Thanks for having me," he said, his tone flat, almost bored. Kelly noticed it immediately. That coldness, that distance, but she pushed forward like the professional she is. "So, you've been working on some amazing projects lately. Tell us about your new initiative with mental health awareness." Harry leaned back in his chair, looking around the studio like he was inspecting it. "Yeah, we're doing some things," he said dismissively. "But honestly, I'm surprised you even know about it. Most American shows don't really do their homework." The audience went quiet. You could feel the shift in the room. Kelly's smile remained, but her eyes showed something else. Confusion. Maybe even a hint of annoyance. But she wasn't going to let this derail the interview. Not yet. "Well, we actually do quite a bit of research before our guests come on," Kelly said calmly. "We want to make sure we're asking the right questions and giving you the platform to share your important work." Harry laughed. Not a friendly laugh. A condescending one. Sure," he said, waving his hand like he was swatting away a fly. "Look, I get it. Morning TV is all about the fluff. The light stuff. Nothing too serious, right?" Kelly's expression changed. The warmth was fading fast. "Actually, we cover a wide range of topics here," she said, her voice still controlled, but firmer now. "We've had presidents, activists, world leaders. We take our interviews very seriously." "Oh, I'm sure you do," Harry replied, smirking now. "Between the cooking segments and the celebrity gossip, I'm sure you really get into the hard-hitting journalism." The audience gasped. Some people looked at each other in disbelief. Others covered their mouths. Kelly Ripa, to her credit, didn't flinch. She sat up straighter in her chair and locked eyes with him. "I'm sorry, I think there might be a misunderstanding here," Kelly said. "If you didn't want to be on this show, you didn't have to accept the invitation." Harry shrugged. "My publicist thought it would be good exposure. You know, reach the everyday people. The ones who watch this kind of thing." That was it. The moment where everything changed. Kelly's face went from professional courtesy to something else entirely. She wasn't angry. She was done. "Everyday people," Kelly repeated slowly. "You mean the millions of viewers who watch this show every single morning? The people who work hard, who support their families, who actually care about the world around them?" Harry shifted in his seat. For the first time, he seemed uncomfortable. "I didn't mean it like that," he said. "Really?" Kelly asked. "Because it sounded exactly like that. It sounded like you think you're too good to be here. Like you're doing us some kind of favor by gracing us with your presence." The cameras were still rolling. The producers in the control room were frozen, unsure of what to do. This was live television. There was no cutting away, no commercial break to save them. This was happening right now, in real time, for everyone to see. "Listen," Harry said, his voice getting sharper. "I don't have to sit here and be lectured by a morning show host about how I should feel. Do you have any idea what I deal with on a daily basis? The pressure? The scrutiny? Kelly didn't back down. Actually, yes, I do. I've been in this business for over 20 years. I've raised kids while working full-time. I've dealt with criticism, with people questioning everything I do. The difference is, I don't use it as an excuse to be rude to people who are just trying to do their jobs. Harry's face turned red. Rude? You think I'm being rude? Maybe if you asked better questions, we'd be having a better conversation. Better questions, Kelly said, nodding slowly. Okay, here's a better question. Why are you here if you clearly don't want to be? Harry opened his mouth to respond, but Kelly wasn't finished. Because from where I'm sitting, she continued, it looks like you came on this show to promote your work, to connect with people, to share your message. But instead, you're sitting here insulting me, insulting this show, and insulting everyone watching. So help me understand. What exactly is your goal here? The silence that followed was deafening. Harry stared at Kelly. Kelly stared back. The audience didn't move. Nobody breathed. Then Harry stood up. You know what? He said, pulling off his microphone. I don't need this. I don't need to sit here and be interrogated like I'm on trial. Kelly remained seated, calm as ever. Nobody's interrogating you, she said. I'm asking you to show some basic respect. That's all. Respect? Harry laughed again. That same condescending sound. That's rich coming from someone who makes a living gossiping about other people's lives. That was the line. Kelly stood up now, too. Her voice was steady, but there was steel in it. All right, that's enough. You can leave. Harry blinked. What? You heard me, Kelly said. This is my show. These are my people, and I'm not going to let you stand here and disrespect them or me any longer. You're done. Please leave. The audience erupted. Some people started clapping. Others were still in shock. Harry looked around, clearly not expecting this response. He pointed at Kelly, his fingers shaking slightly. You can't kick me off your show, he said, his voice rising. Do you know who I am? Kelly crossed her arms. Yes, I do. You're someone who came on this show as a guest and decided to act like being here was beneath you. And now you're leaving. Security will show you out if you need assistance. Harry's mouth hung open. He looked like he wanted to say something, anything, to regain control of the situation. But there was nothing to say. He had pushed too far, and Kelly had drawn the line. This is unbelievable, Harry muttered, shaking his head. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret, Kelly replied, is that we wasted everyone's time today. But that ends now. Harry turned and stormed toward the exit, his footsteps heavy on the studio floor. The cameras followed him as he walked past the crew, past the stunned faces of the production team, and straight out the door. It slammed behind him with a loud bang that echoed through the studio. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Kelly turned back to the camera, composed as if nothing had happened. Well, she said with a small smile, that was unexpected. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we've got an amazing chef who's going to show us how to make the perfect spring salad. Don't go anywhere. The show cut to commercial, but inside the studio, the energy was electric. The audience was talking, buzzing with excitement and disbelief. They had just witnessed something that would be talked about for years. A prince, someone who was supposed to represent grace and dignity, had been kicked off a morning talk show because he couldn't control his own ego. Backstage, Harry was pacing in the green room, his face still flushed with anger. His publicist rushed over, phone in hand, panic written all over her face. What just happened out there? She asked, her voice tight with stress. She kicked me off, Harry said, throwing his hands up. Can you believe that? She actually kicked me off her show. The publicist closed her eyes and took a deep breath. What did you say to her? Nothing, Harry insisted. I was just being honest. She's the one who couldn't handle it. The publicist opened her phone and started scrolling. Already, Clips of the interview were being shared online. Twitter was exploding. Facebook was flooded with comments. Instagram stories were popping up everywhere, and none of them were kind to Harry. Back on set, Kelly was getting her makeup touched up during the commercial break. Her co-host, who had been watching from the side, came over. "That was intense," he said quietly. "Are you okay?" Kelly nodded. "I'm fine. But I wasn't going to let him talk to us like that. Not to me, not to our crew, and definitely not to our audience." "You did the right thing," he said. Everyone saw what he was doing. He was being completely out of line. Kelly smiled. "Thanks. Now, let's get back to doing what we do best, making great television." When the show came back from commercial, Kelly was back in her element. Warm, engaging, professional. She introduced the chef, laughed at the right moments, asked thoughtful questions. It was like the previous segment had never happened, except everyone watching knew it had. They had seen it. They had witnessed Kelly Ripa stand up to someone who thought his title meant he could treat people however he wanted. Meanwhile, in the green room, Harry was still fuming. He grabbed his coat and headed for the exit, ignoring the crew members who stepped aside to let him pass. His publicist followed, frantically typing on her phone, already trying to do damage control that she knew was probably impossible. As Harry pushed through the studio doors and out into the bright morning sunlight, he had no idea just how badly this was going to follow him. He thought he was making a statement. He thought he was standing up for himself. But what he had actually done was show the world exactly who he was when things didn't go his way. Inside the studio, the show continued. Kelly moved seamlessly from segment to segment, proving once again why she was one of the best in the business. She didn't need to mention what had happened. She didn't need to explain herself or defend her actions. Her professionalism spoke for itself. The audience, still buzzing from what they had witnessed, gave her a standing ovation during one of the commercial breaks. Kelly waved and smiled, grateful for their support, but also just ready to get back to work. "Thank you all so much," she said to the crowd. "You guys are the best. Seriously." In the control room, the producers were already fielding calls from news outlets wanting to know what had happened. Everyone wanted the story. Everyone wanted the inside scoop. But the team knew better than to comment. They would let the footage speak for itself. By the time the show ended an hour later, the clip had already been viewed millions of times online. People were dissecting every word, every facial expression, every moment of the exchange. And overwhelmingly, they were on Kelly's side. Comments flooded in from all over the world. "Kelly Ripa is a queen for standing up to him. I can't believe he talked to her like that. Who does he think he is? She handled that perfectly. Respect to Kelly for not letting him get away with that behavior." Harry, on the other hand, was being torn apart. People who had once admired him were now questioning everything. His reputation, which had already been shaky, took another massive hit, and all because he couldn't put aside his ego for one simple morning show interview. Back at the studio, as the crew cleaned up and prepared for the next day's show, there was a sense of pride in the air. They had all seen what Kelly did. They had all witnessed her refuse to be disrespected, and they knew that moment would define not just that episode, but the entire show's legacy. Kelly sat in her dressing room, finally alone for the first time since the incident. She looked at herself in the mirror and let out a long breath. It had been a wild morning, but she didn't regret a single thing. She had done what she needed to do. She had protected her show, her team, and her audience. There was a soft knock on the door. One of the producers poked her head in. "Hey," she said gently, "just wanted to check on you. That was really something out there." Kelly smiled. "I'm good. Really. It needed to happen." "You were amazing," the producer said. "The whole team is so proud of you. You stood up for all of us." "Thanks," Kelly replied. "But honestly, I was just doing my job. Nobody gets to come on this show and act like that. I don't care who they are. The producer nodded and closed the door, leaving Kelly alone again. She turned back to the mirror and thought about everything that had just happened. In 36 seconds, everything had changed. A simple interview had turned into a moment that would be remembered forever. She thought back to the exact moment when things started to fall apart. When Harry had first walked on stage, she had genuinely been excited to have him there. She had prepared questions about his charity work, his life experiences, his hopes for the future. She wanted to give him a platform to share something meaningful with her audience. But from the very first exchange, something felt off. The way he looked around the studio with that dismissive expression. The way he barely acknowledged her greeting. The way he seemed to be counting down the minutes until he could leave. It was like he was doing her a favor just by being there. And then came the comments. Each one more condescending than the last. Each one making it clearer that he saw himself as better than everyone in that room. Better than the crew who had worked hard to prepare for his arrival. Better than the audience who had come to see him. Better than Kelly herself. When he said that thing about everyday people, that was when Kelly knew she had to act. Because those everyday people were her people. They were the ones who showed up every morning to watch her show. They were the ones who supported her through good times and bad. They were the reason she had this job in the first place. And she was not about to let anyone, royal or not, talk down to them. Kelly stood up from her chair in the dressing room and walked to the window. She could see the New York City streets below, bustling with life. People rushing to work, grabbing coffee, living their lives. Those were the people Harry had dismissed so casually. Those were the people Kelly fought for every single day. She picked up her phone and saw the messages flooding in. Texts from friends, colleagues, even other celebrities who had seen the clip. Everyone was saying the same thing. You did the right thing. You stood up for yourself. You didn't let him get away with it. We're proud of you. One message in particular caught her eye. It was from another talk show host, someone she respected deeply. The message read, "Just saw what happened. That took guts. Most people would have just smiled and let it slide. You showed real courage today. That's what leadership looks like." Kelly felt a warmth spread through her chest. She wasn't doing this for praise or recognition. She had done it because it was right. But knowing that other people understood, that they saw what she saw, that meant something. Meanwhile, across town in his hotel room, Harry was having a very different experience. His phone was also blowing up, but the messages he was getting were not supportive. His manager had called 3 times. His brother had sent a worried text. His publicist had sent at least 10 messages, each one more frantic than the last. He tossed his phone onto the bed and walked to the hotel window, staring out at the same city Kelly was looking at, but seeing it very differently. He was angry. Angry at Kelly for not just going along with the interview. Angry at his publicist for booking him on that show in the first place. Angry at everyone for not understanding his side of things. But deep down, beneath all that anger, there was something else. A small, uncomfortable feeling that he was trying very hard to ignore. It was the feeling that maybe, just maybe, he had been wrong. Maybe he had been out of line. Maybe Kelly had every right to kick him off her show. He shook his head, pushing the thought away. No, he was a prince. He didn't need to apologize to a talk show host. He had been honest. That was all. If she couldn't handle honesty, that was her problem, not his. But the videos kept coming. Every news outlet was running the story. Every social media platform was talking about it. And the comments, oh, the comments. They were brutal. People were calling him entitled, arrogant, disrespectful. They were saying he had embarrassed himself and his family. They were saying Kelly Ripa was a hero for standing up to him. Harry sat down on the edge of the bed and put his head in his hands. This was supposed to be a simple interview. A quick appearance to promote his work and remind people that he was still relevant, still doing important things. Instead, it had turned into a disaster, and the worst part was, he couldn't blame anyone but himself. Back at the studio, Kelly's co-host found her in her dressing room. He knocked lightly and stepped inside when she called for him to come in. "Hey," he said softly, "I just wanted to say again, you were incredible today. The way you handled that, the way you didn't back down, that was really something special." Kelly smiled at him. "Thanks. I appreciate that. I just hope people understand why I did it." "Are you kidding?" He laughed. "Everyone understands. The internet is on fire with support for you. People are calling you a legend. They're saying this is one of the best moments in live television history." Kelly shook her head, still processing it all. "I wasn't trying to make history. I was just trying to do my job with dignity." "I know," her co-host said. "And that's exactly why people love it. You weren't trying to create a viral moment. You were just being authentic. You were standing up for what you believe in. That's powerful." They stood there in comfortable silence for a moment, both reflecting on what had happened. Then Kelly's co-host spoke again. "You know what the best part is?" he asked. "You showed everyone that it doesn't matter who you are or what title you have. If you come on this show and act like a jerk, there are consequences. You set a standard. And that matters." Kelly nodded. That was exactly it. That was the point. Nobody should get a free pass to be rude just because of their status or their name. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect, and everyone should treat others with respect in return. It was such a simple concept, but somehow people kept forgetting it. As the day wore on, the story only got bigger. News anchors were discussing it on the evening broadcasts. Late-night hosts were making jokes about it. Talk radio was debating it. The clip had been viewed tens of millions of times. It was everywhere. And through it all, Kelly maintained her composure. She didn't give interviews about it. She didn't post about it on social media. She didn't try to capitalize on the moment. She just went home, had dinner with her family, and got ready to do it all again the next day. Because that's what professionals do. They don't seek attention. They don't create drama for the sake of drama. They just show up, do their job to the best of their ability, and treat people with respect. And when someone crosses a line, they stand up for themselves and for the people they represent. Harry, on the other hand, spent the evening fielding calls and trying to figure out how to spin the situation. His team was working overtime to come up with a statement, something that would make him look better without admitting he was wrong. But every draft they came up with felt hollow and insincere. The truth was, there was no spinning this. The video spoke for itself. Anyone who watched it could see exactly what happened. Harry had been rude, dismissive, and condescending. Kelly had been professional, patient, and ultimately justified in her decision to end the interview. No amount of clever wording was going to change that narrative. By the time Kelly went to bed that night, she felt at peace. She had done what needed to be done. She had stood up for herself and for her show. She had shown that kindness and respect are not weaknesses. They are strengths. And she had reminded everyone watching that we all have a choice in how we treat each other. The next morning, when Kelly arrived at the studio, she was greeted by applause from the entire crew. People hugged her, thanked her, told her how proud they were to work with her. It was an emotional moment, one that reminded her why she loved this job so much. It wasn't about the fame or the money or the celebrity guests. It was about the people, the team she worked with every day, the audience who trusted her to bring them good content, the community they had all built together. And as Kelly sat down in her chair to start another day of work, she felt grateful. Grateful for the opportunity to do what she loved. Grateful for the people who supported her. And grateful that she had the courage to stand up when it mattered most. Because in those 36 seconds, when everything hung in the balance, she had made a choice. She could have let it go. She could have smiled and nodded and finish the interview like nothing was wrong. But she didn't. She chose to draw a line. She chose to say enough is enough. She chose to stand up for what was right. And that choice, that moment of courage, would inspire countless people who saw it. People who had been disrespected at work. People who had been talked down to. Even people who had been made to feel small by someone who thought they were better. All of those people saw Kelly stand up, and they felt a little bit stronger themselves. That's the power of doing the right thing, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you're facing someone with power or status or influence. Because at the end of the day, respect matters, kindness matters,